Today we're going to have a look at this bootleg premium DNA Earthworm gym figure. Like I said, this is a bootleg version of Earthworm Gym by Premium DNA, and buying a bootleg is always a little bit hit and miss. You never really know what you're going to get. I bought this off AliExpress for around £10 and at that price I thought I'll take a chance, and if it's bad, you know, I've lost out on £10, which isn't a great amount of money. Now, the first thing you'll notice on this bootleg is the artwork. It's absolutely fantastic. 9 times out of 10 when you get in a bootleg figurine, you can tell straight away because the artwork on the packaging is a little bit worse for wear. You know, the printout isn't as good, it's not as vibrant, it's not as sharp. But I must admit with this, I think it is pretty good. You know, you can't really, I haven't got one to compare it with, but to me, it looks like an official version. And to be honest, if I was sold this as an official version, just going off the box alone, I would have been fooled straight away. It's got all the necessary printouts on each side, as it would have on the original box. Even underneath, it's got the actual name of the company and you know, the address. But make no mistakes, this is actually a bootleg. A very good one, but a bootleg nonetheless. And here we are, and I must admit, first impressions I think are pretty good. I think this looks absolutely amazing considering I only paid £10 for it. And like I said, the artwork on the box looks stunning. It looks sharp and vibrant, just as a real one would. But when you turn it around, this image here, I don't know if it's coming up on camera, this image does look a little bit worse than the other images. Like this one here is nice and vibrant, obviously because it's cartoon style, but then when you've got a picture of the actual product on the back here, it doesn't look great. This one isn't as sharp, and this would be one of the first telltale signs that this is actually a bootleg, but a pretty good bootleg. That's another telltale sign. I would say that's another telltale sign that this is a bootleg. None of the pieces were actually strapped in there. Yeah. Anyway. Okay, so before we have a look at the actual figurine, let's first have a look at the accessories that it comes with. I'm pretty sure that this figurine is based off the animated series and the video game, obviously, but I think mainly off the animated series. I remember this being in the video game, the snot that used to let him swing around the levels, but I'm pretty sure it also made it into the animated series. This character here, and this character, and this character are all the same entity. They're all snot. It says on the back of the box here that this one here is called Action Snot. This one here is called Just Snot, and then this one here is called, where are we? There we go, that's the right way up, Lazy Snot. And you know, I'm pretty impressed with the actual paintwork on this. It's not too bad at all. No, you can see there are a little bit of imperfections here with the moulding, and the paint job is a bit rough around the eyes if you're getting closer. I don't know how close I can get, just focus in. You can see around the edges it's a little bit smudged, but nothing too bad. I'm quite pleased with that. I'm not upset with that in the slightest. And here's a Just Snot, and as you can see, the paintwork is actually pretty damn good, actually. There's a little bit of green on the eyes there in the corner, but overall, I'm quite pleased with that. I think it looks pretty damn good. They've even got these different shades of green as you turn it around here. As you can see there, there's a bit of a lighter green, then it's a darker green over here. Really impressed with that. And then we have Lazy Snot, which is really nicely moulded. I can't really see many faults on it, to be honest. It's it's a piece of snot. So if there were any imperfections, I'd probably forgive it because it's, end of the day, it's just a piece of snot. Yeah, pretty good. Pretty impressed so far. Next, we have the interchangeable hands, which, they're just all painted blue. I can't fault these at all. They all look pretty damn good. I presume that's so he can hold his blaster. Yep, these are all pretty good. No complaints at all with these. And here is his trusty blaster. I remember this so well from the game. You got such a buzz just pulling the trigger on this. It had like a rapid fire effect. And it was so cool in the game. It's one of my fondest memories of the game, actually, firing this gun. Really good, yeah, really nice sculpt, nice paint job, just like everything else. Yeah, once again, no complaints. This is pretty good. And then we have the head sculpts, and this is a part where I thought I would find fault, but I must admit, I can't find many faults at all with this. I think the paint is actually pretty damn good on this. There's nothing, you know, there's nothing to complain about. I mean, maybe you can tell in parts that it's a little bit rough around the edges, but overall, it's pretty damn good. There's not a lot to fuss about with these. For £10, you know, I'm quite happy. If I'd have paid double that, I'd have still been quite happy with these head sculpts and the figure overall. And here he is, the man himself, and I must admit I am pretty impressed with this figure. I think the paintwork is more or less immaculate. There are little speckles here and there of paint that maybe should have landed on his collar, that have landed on the white, but they're so minute, they're not really that noticeable. But I must admit there are a few imperfections that cannot go unnoticed, and the first one is right in between his eyes. I don't know if you can see that mark, but there is an imperfection there in between the eyes. But from over here, you can't really see it, and I didn't see it at first, but when I came closer, I did notice it. It is very, very noticeable. Now, the other head sculpts don't seem to share this problem. They seem to be quite flawless, to be honest. And close up, it is actually very hard to notice it now that I've seen it. But when you come down to these two head sculpts here, which I showed you earlier, they're actually pretty perfect. So I might just swap it out with one of them. So that's the first fault I found with it. Nothing mega, but it's there. But for £10, can you really grumble at that? I don't think so. You know, maybe I can save this figure by, you know, giving it a little bit of paint, maybe, but I don't think I'll be doing that. I think I'll probably just make it look worse because my painting technique is not up to scratch. But if yours is, then, you know, maybe you could give it a lick of paint and make it look okay. That being said, you know, not all of these figures will have this imperfection. Other ones may have imperfections elsewhere. Mine just happens to have it in between the eyes. But apart from that little imperfection on the head, I can't really see anything else wrong with this figurine. I think it looks pretty damn good, actually, and really impressive. I'm going to keep saying this, really impressive for a bootleg. It looks amazing, but how are the joints? Okay, so the head pivot is quite good, actually. It's quite nice and stiff. You can't really get a lot of movement going back, but going forward you can get quite a bit of movement there, side to side. And like I said, it's quite stiff, which is what you want from a bootleg. The worst thing ever is loose joints, and I've got a few bootlegs in my collection which are just truly awful because the joints are really loose. But this one seems to be nice and stiff, like really, really stiff. Not too stiff, you can move them, but they're not going to fall back down, which is what some bootlegs would do, or just completely drop off. But this one seemed very strong, you know, very strong. The legs, once again, are nice and stiff. You know, even in all the joints, I don't feel like it's going to break, which is a positive. Because, like I said, normally you pick a bootleg up, you bend its leg, and it just pops out of the joint, and then it's forever doing that. But this one, I'm really impressed with it. It looks, you can hear it, can't you? You can hear that twisting sound. It's really good. Even at the torso here, you can kind of move it back and forth, and it's got a little bit of leeway. The one thing I'd be worried about is these straps, whether they're going to actually pop out of there over time, but they do actually seem like they're well glued in there, and I don't think they're going to go anywhere, actually. They seem really, really well glued on. Yeah, so there's actually quite a good amount of articulation, which I'll show you a little bit later on when I do the showcase section and I start posing this with some photographs. So now let's see how easy it is to put the alternative head sculpt on. When I popped the old one off there, the one with the imperfection between the eyes, it was quite easy, but getting the back on sometimes can prove a little bit difficult. But not in this case. That was pretty straightforward. And it's got quite a good hold in there as well. Yeah, really impressed. Let's try that other head. There we go, not a problem at all. That was quite straightforward. Not a problem. There he is with his zany face. But you know what, I think I like this one the best, so I'm going to put this one on him. And you know what, this is the head sculpt I would have probably displayed him with anyway, because to me this is the iconic look of Earthworm Jim. This is how I remember him from the box of the video game, with that facial expression. So I would have most likely displayed him with this head regardless. So the fact that this one has that small imperfection between the eyes doesn't really bother me at all, because this is the head I would have chosen. It would seem that on the box Earthworm Jim is left-handed, so let's put this gun hand on his left arm here, and then put the gun in his hand. And here we have him with the gun in his hand, and as you can see, it is quite a nice snug fit. I'm really happy with this bootleg figure. It's a little bit hit and miss. Normally you can get a bad one or you can get a good one. Today I've got a good one, and I'm really impressed with it. It's a really nice figurine. It reminds me a lot of the NECA Turtles, the bootlegs, which are just over there. You can see them in the background. Those are bootlegs, and those are some of the best bootlegs in my collection. If we're turning around, we can see the backpack here. The top of it actually comes off. It's not too loose and it's not too tight. It's just right. And we can attach these little accessories. So here is Lazy Snot just hanging out of Jim's backpack. And then we have Action Snot here, which we can connect there, and this is what Jim would use to swing around the levels of the computer game and in the animated series as well. Okay, so that just happened, and I'm glad it happened on film, because that is a telltale sign of a bootleg. Things dropping off. It won't take much to fix, just a little blob of glue, and I can put that back on there and all will be good and fine. To be perfectly honest, if this was an official figure, that could have happened anyway. You know, I've had plenty of figures, especially NECA figures, what I've took out the packaging and little bits have snapped off and fallen off. So I can't really fault it much on that, but there you go. I'm glad it happened on film, so we've caught that. But with a little blob of glue, I can put that back on and no harm, no foul. So yeah, I can highly recommend this figurine. I think it is absolutely amazing for a bootleg. I cannot fault the quality of it. The only issue I did see was in between the eyes of that head sculpt, and that's it. There's not really any other issues with it. I think it is absolutely amazing. It's a solid figure, and I give it the thumbs up. Of course, I always recommend that if you can afford the official one, buy the official one, support the company. For the purpose of this video, I went for this bootleg because I know you guys like watching the bootleg videos, and yeah, it's really impressive, and I highly recommend it.